Hi, and welcome to the SDG Simulation Hubs. My name is Céline, and I design and facilitate the hubs. The hubs are experiential, interdisciplinary, and world-connected environments in which students take ownership of the SDG language, engage in solution-oriented negotiation, and generate knowledge on how to implement the SDGs worldwide. Partner institutions as well engage in SDG implementation and align their curriculum with the SDGs. Please contact me for more information and to explore ways to work together. Coming up, some insights and experiences from the students. Journey with us.
So you work under pressure and try to organize your little group. What your standpoint or your standpoint is going to be?
Yeah, we want to get as much detail as possible so that we can have a good basis for negotiation.
And be prepared for what other groups might say, so that we have a close idea what comes to you in the discussion with the other groups, so that we're not just only focused on what we want to bring into the conversation, but what's going to be directed onto us.
Yeah. So it's kind of anticipating what's going to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Now we found out what kind of great innovations they can offer to the local community and to the world in general. And so I think now we all have the feeling that we can save the world.
Okay, we have negotiated about a Pacific island where we want to take climate action with different parties, and we had a really emotional discussion. Let's see how we all felt about it, what we've learned with this little play.
So, okay, you were in 4 groups. One group was a local NGO, another group was a rather international environmental NGO, one group was an NGO representing the investors, kind of, and the last one was like a group of mediators. And so I would like you to, you and your groups, share your experiences, what you've learned, what were the challenges you faced, and just start.
I was in the local NGO, and I think it was very interesting, the negotiation process, because I learned some things. For example, we put the laptop on the table at first, and we learned that this isn't so good in a negotiation, and I didn't know that before. I think it was also kind of emotional because we could identify quite a lot with the principles of our NGO, and it was sometimes hard to negotiate with this knowledge.
For me, as I was having a special role as representative of the government, I kind of felt. First, I felt it's really interesting to see how these negotiations worked out. So how the different parties kind of tried to express their views and follow their interests, and how, like, slowly some compromises seem to develop. And I felt, me personally, I felt it's hard to jump into a role which you're not particularly, which is not particularly the same as you would normally act like. So maybe it does have some different values, but I think it helps a lot to understand what other people think, what their interests are, and if you understand what other people's perspectives are, it's much easier to react to it and to have like the best outcome in the end.
Yeah, for me, I was in the local NGO, and the big challenge was to get into the role and having deep arguments and get information before. So you really have arguments and don't tell a story or something else. And yeah, later on it was great to see how emotional can a negotiation be, and to calm down and stay in your role. Yeah.
I was part of the International Environmental Agency, and it was quite difficult for me to find a place in this discussion when you're not a central part, not the protagonist or the antagonist in this case. And it was also quite difficult to make demands when you don't have any real leverage, when you are just trying to point out some specific facts or some specific problems, but you're really dependent on other parties to notice those, and maybe for parties with more leverage to really try to integrate those. Yes, that was my experience.
I was in the NGO which was trying to find the interests of the investors, and it was at the beginning quite difficult to really only think of the profit and of the investors' interests, and to set personal or human interaction activities behind. And then I learned that when the interruption took place and the person from the government entered the conversation, I was confused because I didn't know on which side she's going to be. So out of instinct, I just tried to be quite offensive and make our point clear where we are and where she's going to be at this table. And then I learned that she's actually going to be on our side. So that was a part which I learned.
Yeah, so I was in the same party, so we were trying to get our business interests out there, and that was quite new for all of us, I think. To, I don't know, just kind of get those interests out there and act accordingly, even though you kind of see the other people's points more than your own, and just kind of get into the language as well, so that you don't give too much information out, and that you just kind of try to kind of get all your things just to yourself, and basically just think of profits and stuff. And it was kind of difficult, but I think we kind of got into it in the second round, where we kind of got into our role a little more.
Yeah, it was so hard at the beginning to just forget completely your personal values and to take over this economic, egoistic worldview where you just don't give a shit about anyone else and just want to bring through your own ideas and your profit. But then when we in the second round adapted to that position and to that role, it was really fun to do this negotiation from a completely different point of view than I would normally have, and this was a great experience, and I think I've learned some things from that, especially understanding other people's behavior and understanding their behaving better. Yes.
Well, for me as a mediator, I found it very difficult to stay neutral, because during the discussion there were so many questions I had, and I was not supposed to take on anybody's side, and so I found myself trying to give some input to the parties without actually giving them the argument. So that was really, really hard for me, because then I really tried myself to hold back. I had the feeling that we really had some important information and something that could get the discussion in a good direction and some more input, and I really tried to just stay out of it. You know, it's hard.
I was also part of the moderating team, and I really found it interesting to try to see all the connecting pieces, whether the other parties didn't try to find those. Maybe they did, but trying to find this connecting areas where they can find a solution or together, and trying to direct them, but without like what you said, without providing an argument, an idea. Okay, you can meet there, something, but just asking. Yeah, it was really interesting.
I was also in the local NGO, and I found it really hard to stick to the strategy because you're easily carried away by emotions, as said before, and yeah, so it was kind of hard really facing your objectives, what you on a basic level wanted to reach, the approach, and on the other hand side it was also very difficult to be more flexible with the commitments you wanted to make, or see the points of others and not kind of go over the boundaries that were between the certain parties and find a solution. So a bit the point that the UN said.
Yes, I was also part of the NGO, and I found it quite difficult to come into this discussion and to say the right things and things which are convincing the other parties. And yes, I realized during the discussion that there are many dimensions which come together, and how difficult it must be to find consensus in real life discussions, I think.
Okay, do you have any further ideas what this discussion could have teach you for the long run? Like, do you get something from it and you think, okay, maybe that will be useful for me to implement in the future? Maybe.
For me, I kind of, so it was getting more clear to me that how you act and how your body language is, and just the way you use your voice and everything is quite important for negotiation. I think that's something, or not only for negotiation, but actually for your daily life. And that's something you should keep in mind when you try to achieve things. And,
Took the fear, or not fear, but it took the not knowing what is going to happen.
Uncertainty.
Uncertainty is the right word, yes.
Yeah, I think we should do this kind of stuff way more often. Because I think it's really a skill for the future, and we're not really practicing it at university a lot. At least that's my feeling, so it's really good to do it here.
Do you have further additions?
I think we're also much about leaving your comfort zone, or at least trying it, especially if you have to take a role you're not very familiar with, and trying to play it right, or just not letting you be carried away by your own beliefs, instead just trying to have a mindset of a different person and the way they are thinking about stuff.
The power of silence. That it could be, or it can be much more effective to have a pause after you say an argument than just raising your voice or trying to be impressive by your body language.
Well, first of all, I really enjoyed doing the simulation because it really helped me to deepen my knowledge about the SDGs, which I'm really interested in, and it also, I also learned a lot about negotiation and how different stakeholders involve and kind of get to a compromise in the end, and that was really interesting for me to gain some insights in how multi-stakeholder negotiations work, and I really enjoy the atmosphere and all the teamwork. So I think it's a great way of coming together and speaking about how the SDGs can practically be implemented, and what challenges are and what ways are to come together and find common ground. So yeah, it was a great project.
I feel like it's been a really great experience, like working with the people on certain projects related to the SDGs has really like opened up different perspectives for me. So if you're coming from a really one-sided way of thinking, like, I don't know, if you have a really economical view on certain things, sometimes it can be really hard to open up on certain things and get a different view on certain problems. So overall, I feel like the people I've worked with really helped me, like, developing like a more open mind and just get a different view on certain things.
I really like working with the SDG simulation hub because for me it was very interesting to get to know different points of view and to integrate different roles of organizations, and I think this weekend was very inspiring for me because as a prof and because of the group we were very free to discuss and the themes were very different, and yes, I think I've learned a lot.
I learned that negotiations are quite hard and that it's really difficult to achieve something in them, to really bring some of the SDGs to life.
Yeah, and I guess what we also do is kind of learn how to get into the role of different stakeholders and just really kind of see all different kinds of aspects that go into these corporations to actually kind of make change happen.
I know the SDGs quite well because I study environmental science, but for me they were these idealistic things, but kind of foreign still. And through the SDG Simulation Hub I got so much closer to them and also to the challenges that come along with trying to implement them. And I learned so much about the world and how things go in the real world, because right now I'm studying and I'm in my little perfect study bubble, and I'm grateful for the experience, and I do hope that this experiential way of learning becomes more promoted, because I actually feel like I learned something. It's not here I've learned something, but it's all over my body, so I really got to know something. Yeah.
For me, it has been a pleasure to go with them through this process and to enjoy the SDGs, not in the conceptual dimensions of the SDGs, but in the very practical dimensions. And this is what we've been aiming for during this SDG simulation hubs, is to translate concepts into practice and to open up our eyes to new perspectives and new ways of doing things, of working together. So I thank all of them for all the work provided. Thank you.
This is a story all about how trash separation got turned upside down, and I'd like to take a minute just sit right here, tell you how I became the king of trash in Leuphana. Yeah. In a green family, I was born and raised right next to the bin is where I spent most of my days. Chilling out, maxing, relaxing on cool and shouting some dudes where to put their used his shoes. When a couple of guys who were up to no good started throwing to-go cups in the wrong hood. I got in one little fight when I said, "Yo, dudes, this belongs not there." After a minute or so, they made up their minds. I looked at the campus, we were finally there, two kings of separation. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I think if we, I guess if you've got doubts that your project is actually going to work,
or something else, and to adapt to this climate conditions. So we can decrease the need of energy, so we don't also need to produce a lot of this.
Sorry.
Hi.
Hello there. Can you provide me with some more details on the energy investing? So get someone who's just for like getting the knowledge how to deal with the energy question on the island, because I think you mentioned that you've got some backup plan.
It's going very well. So there are some investors there.
I think it sounds like we can really work together very well.
The problem was solved. I think they just said it's solved.
The things I addressed early on, so what are our requirements to build the island, were not addressed at all. We got stopped at the last point and then moved to energy. So we're still not talking about the actual realization, so where we come together.